Hi everybody, I'm Elizabeth Hines from OurPaleoFamily.com, and we have arrived at Whole30 day 22. Yippee! Shout for joy. I'm very excited that we are at day 22. I wish it were day 30. I'm ready to be done. But that being said, we have about just under 9 days left to go. And we're going to make it through, right? I hope you are also on day 22 and you are making it through just fine and doing well. I would love to know how you're feeling. I had that one day, like day, I don't know, 19, around that point where I felt like, oh, I've got the elusive tiger blood. But I have not had it since. And now I feel okay. I mean, I feel good, I feel fine, but I don't feel like superhuman or anything. And I was really led to believe that that was how I would be feeling. And that is not how I'm feeling in the least, really. But I don't have stomach pain, not having headaches. Now it is getting to be the height, as I look outside, getting to be the height of fall allergy season for me personally in our area. And I'll have to say I'm not experiencing allergies. I had that terrible cold, but that is something different altogether. So I'm very thankful for that. And I did find when I first went paleo, I noticed a big difference in my seasonal allergies. And then as I allowed dairy back into my life, so came back the allergies to a certain degree. So if that is something that you suffer from, I wanted my other fork and I don't see it. I'll use this one. Then giving up dairy is something to consider. So here we are at day 22, and I was looking at the recipes that I have left remaining on my my list that I had created before I embarked on this adventure. And there's a lot of beef left, a lot. And so I decided that we needed some chicken. And I don't know that we'll have any fish. I might have used up all my inexpensive fish. But we're going to have some chicken tonight, so we at least are not having beef every day. And while I'm thinking about that, as I post the weekly menus, those are, for the most part, I found it not a mistake, but just a place today where I personally had strayed from that a little bit. It's pretty much what I have been eating. Exactly. But you don't have to do that by any means. You don't have to cook any of these meals if you don't want to. Though I would recommend you do at least some of them. But they're just ideas, and you certainly don't have to cook them in the same order. And you know, the order in which I cook my meals is based on what is going on that week. So the days that are super busy, I need a simpler meal, and a day that is super busy for me is not necessarily the day that's going to be super busy for you. So does that make sense? So I'm sure you all know this because you're very smart, but I'm just giving you a week's worth of ideas, and I have listed the day in which we ate them. And, you know, I'm giving you these videos in order. This is what we had on this particular day. But you feel free to cook these things in whatever order you like. And tonight, so what we're having is orange chicken. Who likes Chinese food? I think most people like the American version of Chinese food, right? That's what we're used to. And there are all of these. Are we hot yet? A lot of them are breaded and real heavy, very sugary sauces. Very, very sugary sauces. And that can taste good, right? Sometimes that hits the spot. And so tonight, that's what we're having. We're having our Whole30 version of orange chicken. And so what I have here are 2 pounds of chicken thighs. These were boneless, skinless chicken thighs. And I have simply cleaned them up. So I cut off most of the fat. You know, thighs can tend to have more fat. I cut off most of that, as much as I reasonably could, without sacrificing too much of the meat. And that's what I have in my bowl here. And I have it sitting in paper towels because I want it to be dry-ish, at least, so that so I don't end up with a really clumpy coating. I don't want a real thick breading, so what I had in my bag was arrowroot, salt, and pepper. So I'm trying to give my chicken just a slight coating so that it will get a little crispy, and then really the main reason is that in the end I'll end up with a thick sauce, which is what I want. I was hoping to be able to use just 2 tablespoons of arrowroot, and that was not enough. So I'm going to have to get some more, and so I need to wash my hands. Okay, we're a little off balance here, so I'm needing to, this thing doesn't have adjustable feet. I need to add a little bit more oil to my skillet because there's only oil on one side. I was hoping to not have to add too much oil, but you know, whatever. I don't have to have all this oil in my finished sauce, but I need to have enough in here so that my chicken is cooking on the whole skillet. All right, so I'm going to add a little more arrowroot and salt and pepper to my bag. So this is a pretty simple dish. It's the chicken and then a really flavorful sauce. And I'm going to serve it over cabbage. So typically we would use white rice because I think I eat white rice without difficulty. Occasionally, my functional medicine doctor actually had me try as my first grain to introduce back into my diet. He had me try white rice, and I felt like it was fine. I didn't notice any symptoms, so I would normally eat this over rice. But we're not having any grains on Whole30, so we're not having rice, and I don't feel like cauliflower because we're going to have a dish with mashed cauliflower later in the week. So I'm saving that. So we're going to do cabbage. And I learned this from my Trim Healthy Mama friends. They seem to do a lot of cabbage, and we like cabbage in egg roll in a bowl, or my pork and veggie unrolls. And we had that last week one day. Super delicious, really flavorful. So why not do it with this? It's basically just another version of a stir fry. So we're just going to cut up some cabbage, fry it in a skillet, and serve our chicken on top of that with our yummy orange sauce. And I'm going to cook some broccoli on the side, and that'll be our dinner. Now, you saw me the first time. I put about half, so about a quarter of my chicken in my bag, and I shook it up and I dumped it out, and then I did another quarter. And this time I just felt like that was too fussy, so I just poured it all in. I couldn't have done the full batch, but half a batch would have been fine. So I'm just going to shake it up. And I'm not going to lay it out on my plate. I'll just leave it right here, because what I'm going to do is, this is like a Clorox wipe, a bleach wipe. As my chicken browns, I'm going to take it out and put it on that plate. And when it's all browned, then I'll make my sauce. And once I have my sauce made, I'll put all my chicken back in. So I'm just going to go through this process of cooking all of my chicken, and then I'll get my sauce going. Alright, I'm going to get started on my sauce ingredients. I have a recipe for a stir fry on my website. I think it's the second recipe I posted, so way back a couple years ago. I'm going to get my coffee in. And this sauce is very similar, it's just a little heavier on the orange. So I'm using 2 oranges and their zest. And as I juice them, we'll get a lot of pulp, I'll show you that. And I'm going to throw that pulp in too. So fruit juice, natural fruit juice is allowed on the Whole30. I wouldn't have a big glass of orange juice every morning. I wouldn't do that normally, but especially not on the Whole30. But to use it in cooking, I think this is the second time we've used some fruit juice in cooking, besides a little shot of lemon juice. So I think that's very balanced over 30 days to just do it a couple times. And I believe that is the spirit of the rule, that you would not be doing it all the time. So we're zesting because there's a lot of flavor there. And I'm going to also use this microplane for my ginger. Now, that microplane, if you are looking for a stocking stuffer idea for the cook in your life and they do not have a microplane, buy them a microplane. It's an amazing tool. I use it almost every single day, and I'm not exaggerating. It's very, very useful. So my problem here is that I have an inexpensive skillet that is sort of, it's old, it's sort of bowed up in the middle. So my oil is all falling down to the edges. And then I have this burner that is really hot in the center, and there's no oil in the center of my pan. As I add a whole bunch of oil, and I really hate to keep adding oil. So I'm going to just keep tilting it, and I'm going to keep turning my chicken around, stirring it up. So it'll be a little bit high maintenance. But if you're cooking on a regular stove and have a nice flat skillet that hasn't been warped somewhat with time and use, then you will not have that problem. So all we're doing is getting our chicken brown, nice and brown on both sides. It doesn't have to be cooked all the way through. I want to get as much juice as I can out of my oranges. See all this pulp right here? I want that. So I'm going to pour my juice out. And bang that off. And then I have to tend to my chicken a little bit. Okay, I'm actually going to move and put this on my stove. That's going to cook a little more evenly. And I'm going to cook my sauce up here, but I will keep showing you the chicken. Alright, so I'm going to put this down on low now. And I want my sauce to reduce. So I'm just going to add all of my sauce ingredients to that pan. Oops. That's a big one. So this is a total from 2 oranges of about a ½ cup of orange juice. Okay, the other ingredients for my sauce, besides the orange zest and the orange juice, a cup of chicken broth. This is cheating, this is really not chicken broth. I cooked a turkey breast in my Instant Pot, and I put some onions and carrots and celery in there, and a ½ cup of water, and that's just a little bit over a cup. And I actually am all out of chicken broth. I don't have any from the store, and I don't have any from my freezer. And so this had it was a turkey, but you know, turkey and chicken taste very similar. So it had the flavor of basically a cheap chicken broth. Like if you bought not a good quality bone broth, then it had that kind of flavor. So it didn't have the gelatin of bone broth. There was no bone in my turkey. It was a boneless turkey breast. But that's all I have. So that's what I'm going to use. And I'm going to get that going so it reduces down. And otherwise, what's going in there is a ½ cup of, whoops, I need this. ½ cup of coconut aminos. There's not quite enough there. I have another bottle. This is the Thrive Market brand, which I found I like theirs. It's a few cents cheaper. So we go with that. Now I've added all that liquid with the broth, and it's quite simmering all together. Okay, a ½ cup. You could use fresh ginger if you wanted. I do not want to mess with fresh ginger tonight, so I'm using, sorry, not ginger, garlic, fresh garlic. But I'm going to use some garlic powder, and I wanted a ½ teaspoon. No, I'm not going to get a ½ teaspoon out of there. Every last little bit. I think I got a ½ teaspoon. And let me give this a little whisk. And then fresh ginger, which is this guy right here. You could use ginger, like ground ginger from the spice aisle. But I had this, so I'm going to use this. Let me check my chicken. Okay, so my fresh ginger, it is much easier to grate or work with a fat portion. So when I buy this at the store, it'll be really big and it's expensive, and so I just break off a piece because it does go bad. It won't last forever in your fridge, so feel free to do that. You don't have to buy it in the size chunks that they have in the produce section. You can break off what you want, but try to break off a fat section like this. Don't just get a bunch of these little skinny, spindly ones, because that's going to be harder for you to work with. So just how, usually I use a peeling knife, but I just wanted to show you it works with a vegetable peeler as well. Just peel away this papery skin so you can get to the surface of the ginger. If you've ever eaten sushi and had that pickled ginger on the side, which I love. Nobody else in my family eats that, so I get to eat it all. But it just reminds me of that. This, of course, isn't pickled. It's fresh. It's equally delicious. So this microplane grater will get it really small so that nobody will eat a big chunk of ginger. Now, in my regular stir fry, I have a good amount of ginger. In this one, I don't want a whole lot. I really want the orange to come through. And so this is just about a teaspoon of that fresh ginger. And so in this goes, and it's going to take a little bit of time for my chicken to cook completely. And this will be reducing, and I'll start working on cutting up my cabbage and my broccoli. All right, let me show you where we are after about 20 minutes. My chicken is cooked. Here's the first batch, which I showed you already. And I'm just going to put my sauce right in this skillet. You just give it a stir. We'll deglaze. It's a non-stick skillet, so there's not a lot of stuff stuck to the bottom, but we'll go through that process anyway. Remember, we have the arrowroot coating the chicken, so it will help this sauce to thicken up. And I'm going to place this over on back on my stove and let it just continue to simmer slowly while I cook my cabbage and broccoli. So, with my heat on medium, I have raw chicken on it, so let's move that away. I am going to cook my cabbage in lard tonight. You could certainly use any high heat fat that you like. I just happen to, the lard has just come in at Whole Foods, and so I have some. I'm all ready for my pie baking when I'm allowed to eat pie again. And I've learned from previous Whole30 attempts that I can't bake for other people and not be able to eat it myself. So I decided this time for Whole30, I couldn't do any baking. And of course, the very first day was the youth group youth group kickoff for the fall season at church. And it was a pig pickin'. Y'all not from the South, you know what a pig pickin' is. It's like barbecue. They cook a pig all day, and everybody is supposed to bring side dishes to share. And I always try to bring a gluten-free dessert because we're gluten-free. Of course, I usually take one of my, a batch of my cookies, so they're actually paleo, so they're gluten-free and dairy-free. But if you don't have any kind of food restrictions, most people that don't think about that, and they don't think that, you know, all the kids here would like to have a dessert. But if there's nothing gluten-free at our church anyway, there are a dozen or more kids, and that's not even mentioning the adults, who don't get a treat. So anyway, I always sign up to take a dessert to these things, so that all the little gluten-free and dairy-free kids can have something yummy at the end of their meal. And so I, of course, had signed up to bring a dessert. So I just went to Aldi and bought, Aldi, I'll tell you what, when you're in a pinch, they have a lot of gluten-free products. They have a lot of baking mixes. They have a pizza crust mix that's really good. And actually, they were out of it for a long time, and I thought maybe they weren't going to carry it anymore, but we were just there this morning, and they had it again. So I bought a couple because they're great for an emergency quick meal. But anyway, so I went to Aldi, and I got, I believe it was the brownie mix, but it had instructions on it for making like fudgy cookies. And so I followed the instructions for the fudgy cookies. And of course, what ran through my mind was, well, I can just start tomorrow. Let me eat one of these. And I was like, you know what? This is from a mix. This is nothing special. The number one ingredient is sugar. That's the thing with those gluten-free mixes, or gluten-free foods in general. They are typically very, very, very high in sugar. And this one was no different. And I made the cookies, and everybody said they were great, and the people that ate them really enjoyed having a gluten-free and dairy-free option, and I resisted. So I was very proud of myself. Okay, so in my parents' day, my grandparents' day, this would be called fried cabbage. Everything that went in a skillet was fried. It was fried potatoes, fried cabbage, fried onions. We call it sauteed or stir-fried, but in fact it is the same thing. We're just heating some oil in the skillet, and we're cooking the food at a relatively high temperature. So that was, I wasn't able to cut quite through the middle of my cabbage, but just about. So that is like a the small half of my head of cabbage. And I'm just going to salt and pepper this. And the salt will help to start drawing out the moisture from the cabbage. And I'm just going to let it sit there for a few minutes, and then I'll start flipping it over. I'm going to cut up my broccoli. One more ingredient that I'm going to add a little bit of to my sauce is some crushed red pepper. We hardly ever use any, so I have these little packets from Papa John's. Whenever we have friends that get pizza, ask them to get me some of these little packets of crushed red pepper, because one of these little packets will last us a long time. So this is how I get my crushed red pepper. So I'm going to add just a few flakes to my orange chicken. If you ever order orange chicken in a restaurant, in a Chinese restaurant, sometimes it's spicy, sometimes it's not. They usually give you an option, and I would choose a non-spicy version. But I like just a teeny bit. Like if they would let me say, I just want a teeny bit of spice. That's what I really want. But at least the restaurants I go to, you don't get that option. It's either way too hot or it's not hot at all. So I'm going to add just a little pinch of this. Oh, that's just bubbling away, and it's going to be really good. I will be honest with you and tell you it's a little bit of a pain to fry that chicken. I don't know why with chicken thighs I find that it pops a lot in the skillet, and it was popping a good bit, so I've got to clean my whole counter and my whole stove and the floor in front of the stove. And I just knew going in that was going to be the situation, and that's okay. That's what we're gonna deal with. So let me get my broccoli cleaned up here. I should have probably started the broccoli before the cabbage, because this won't take very long to cook, but I will shortcut it just a little bit. I'll show you how. Alright, so I'm going to switcheroo again. I want to move my cabbage over here. Let me give it a stir so you can see what's happening. It's not really browning, just fine. Cooked cabbage can really stink, so I might just open the window so we don't stink up the house, and then people won't complain. I don't want it mushy, so this is close to being done. Let me get just a little bit of oil in my skillet. I'm going to get all my broccoli in here. Whoops, a piece of cabbage came out. Yum, yum, yum. Okay, in goes the broccoli. A little salt, pepper, garlic would be really good in this. And I want the lid on. And once that cooks for just a minute, I'll add a little bit of water to create some steam. And then I will put the lid back on. Actually, I'm going to turn my heat up too. Let that start. Oh yeah, it's starting to brown on the bottom. Can you see that? Good. Good, good, good. All right, y'all, we're just waiting for the broccoli to finish, which now that it's steaming, it'll be done really fast. Ooh, you see how pretty bright green it is? Really nice, but it's not cooked yet. It's almost perfect. It could be fine just like that, but I think it would be better if it was cooked a teeny bit more. Okay, so here's my fried cabbage. Just simply sauteed in the pan for about 10 minutes in a little lard. Use any cooking oil that you prefer, just not vegetable oil. It's soft, but it still has a good bit of crunch to it. Some salt and pepper. My broccoli, again, just a little bit of oil, salt and pepper, a little water to create some steam. Beautiful bright green broccoli. And then, the best of all, the orange chicken. And if you were serving this to company, which you totally could, this is definitely a company-worthy dish, you could sprinkle some green onions on top. Green onions or some more of the red pepper flakes, if you like the spice, would be very good. I'm going to serve it up just like this. So instead of rice, we get a nice bed of cabbage on the bottom. And then I'm going to go ahead and sneak my broccoli in. I'll kind of place it prettily around the edges. And then remember, I told you I had 2 pounds. 2 pounds. I need a ladle. 2 pounds of chicken thighs. So, as long as you eat your veggies, you can have lots of chicken and sauce. So just load on the chicken. The sauce is the perfect consistency. Nice and thick and syrupy. Just sweetened with our orange juice. This is perfect at home takeout Chinese. So day 22, we have our orange chicken over sauteed cabbage and some broccoli. Perfect, full of veggies, lots of flavor. And we're almost at day 23. Yay! Hang in there. 1 week to go. I'll see you tomorrow.